So today is January 2nd, 2023. Happy New Year. This is the start of the year video. Let me start by saying that I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Today we'll be talking about what used to be stock symbol MMTLP and what has become the new private company NextBridge Hydrocarbons. This is the start of the year video, and let me start by saying that if you have no idea what's going on, I will not tell you. Instead, I will refer you to two videos that I've already made. It's MMTLP, the FINRA fraud fiasco continues Monday. That breaks down the organizations that are involved, exactly what happened, what the U3 halt was, what the trading halt was going on about, and all that other stuff. The naked short shares that are involved, all that stuff that's going on. Check out the MMTLP FINRA fraud fiasco continues Monday. If you want to know about the details of NextBridge Hydrocarbons company, the 3.2 billion barrels of oil in the ground in West Texas near El Paso, the fact that there's, some two pipelines that are close by, there's a refinery in El Paso, etc., all that. Check out MMTLP, the story is coming to a close. That will give you the in-depth details as to exactly what's going on there. In either case, I will not be going over that info with you on this video. Each of those videos are about, 20 minutes to 30 minutes long each. And they will give you references to other videos if you would like to do more investigation and more detailed, if you want to know more details about what's going on. In either case, moving on. Today, I'd like to talk to you about, so today, I'm making this video because I went around the Twitter spaces a little bit, saw what people were talking about, get the general gist of the overall feel of what people are thinking about in Twitter spaces, right? And I believe that there may be a bunch of people who are falling into despair. There may be a bunch of people who don't know what's going on. And this video is intended to help those people who don't know what's going on and to give you an idea of why why people are doing what they're doing, and how the world works, how this situation may or may not play out. Who knows? We'll see. This is my take on it in any case. But let me start by going over an overall general concept of conflicts, right? Let's say you got Party A. Party A wants to change. And you got Party B. Party B wants to keep things exactly the same, right? So Party A may want change so badly that they want to take legal action, and Party B wants to keep things the same, so they will go, they'll take a legal defense. Who wants to keep things the same? Generally, people who want to keep things the same are people who are already in power, people who fear that any change may disrupt where they're currently at. They are very happy with the situation as to where they are in the current hierarchy of things. They're very happy with the amount of revenue that's coming in. They're very happy with the way things work. They don't want any change because change could be disruptive and they could lose whatever. They could actually be in a worse place with change, right? Change doesn't necessarily mean you're in a better place than you were before. In some cases, you're in a great place and you want to maintain that great place you're at. So generally, people want to keep things the same. They're in a great place, and they're very happy with that. So in any case, because they want to keep things the same, they've already planned for people who want change, right? They've instituted legal and compliance departments so that they can say, hey, look, we know all about stuff about the law and all that. We want the law to be this way. They already have lawyers on retainer. They may have pre-existing relationships with judges for all you know. Who knows? I mean, who's to say? Who's to say? In any case, let's just say they've already planned for people who want disruption and change, and they don't want disruption and change. They want to keep things exactly the way they are because, as far as they're concerned, they've won. Why would I want change if I've already won, if I'm on top? This can only be bad. If you're at the top of the heap, change is bad. You may fall lower. You may lose some of your power, But in either case, they are prepared for legal defense. They have lawyers on retainer, okay? And now, this is not to say legal action will not be successful. Legal action can be successful, but it can also take a very long time. Party B, who wants to keep things the same, they are usually willing to outlast Party A, right? They're usually willing to spend the money because they already have the money to take as long as legal action takes. And if Party A goes bankrupt before Party B, then hey, great. Situation, problem solved, no problem. Then they move on to the next guy who wants change and say, you can't have change because, you can't have change because, well, let's just go to court and I'll wait until you go bankrupt. That's the way the world works, right? So Party A. Party A generally is smaller than Party B. They generally have less access to capital. They are generally, have no power at all. So Party A also has no influence on Party B. Why should they? They want change. Party B says keep things the same, right? That's just the way the world is. Not only does Party A have very little to no influence on Party B, the only way that they can get change is, through this legal action or something like that. So they actually are relying on an outside party, right? An outside arbiter, judge, jury, whatever. And they need to get this judge, jury, whatever, to understand the situation. Not only do they need to get them to fully understand the situation, they need to get them to agree that Party A is in the right. They need them to get them to be outraged about the situation for Party A. They need to agree that justice is best served if change is enacted, right? That is what Party A must do, right? That is the goal. As you can tell, that can take a very long time. That can be very expensive. You're getting outside, and it's not guaranteed. It's possible you could be successful. I'm not saying don't do it. Sure, go for it. But, let's just say Party A has a very difficult path to get the change that they want via legal action. But, it's a path. It could work. I'm not against it. Lots of things happen. Not only is this the case with Party A having a difficult path, Party B will put up every roadblock they can to Party A because, quite frankly, Party B views Party A as a threat to their existence, right? I mean, Party A says, hey, look, we want to, we have a lawsuit. We want discovery. Give us all the information that you have on this topic that's pertinent. So Party B will say, okay, fine. We'll give you all the information. We'll give you, here's 500 boxes of paperwork, all in written paper, of course, so that you cannot computer search it. But all the paperwork is there. You can see all the information that everyone talked everything about the subject matter. Here you go. And by the way, this is what everyone talked everything about anything. So you will have all the information, and it will take you 10,000 years to go through 10,000 boxes of data that may or may not be relevant to your situation, but it's all the information that's there, right? So Party B views Party A as a threat to their very existence. They will not help to comply with whatever change Party A wants. They'll say, okay, fine. You want to go down the legal path? We'll give you all the information, okay? And that's going to be very expensive, time-consuming, and it's not guaranteed that you'll win. You might win. It's a possibility, Keep it in mind. It's a distinct possibility. It can happen. Let's put together a different scenario. Okay, Party A wants change. Party B wants to keep things the same. But suppose Party A is able to communicate to Party B, right? That, if you keep things the same, this will result in a greater loss for you than if you had change. That's a very different scenario than what I just presented before with Party A, right? Before, Party A wants to take something from Party B to enact that change. Party B says, no, I want to keep things the same. Why should you change the situation? I could suffer a loss if that's the case, right? However, in this case, Party B says, hey, look, keep things the same. You're going to suffer a loss. You're going to suffer a big loss. And it's a bigger loss than if you had change. And Party B says, oh, shit. If they understand that keeping things the same will result in a bigger loss than change, it's like, oh, shit, let me think about this. You're saying if I keep doing what if I keep going down the path I'm on, this could be problematic for me, right? If I keep doing the same thing that I've always been doing, that I viewed as, the reason for my success or whatever. You're saying that I will ultimately fail as a result of this. This is something that I need to consider and something I need to think about, right? Very, very different tact, very different conversation, very, very different situation. Communication takes place right now. It's not, it's like, hey, I may not be responsible for you self-destructing, but I'm telling you, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna self-destruct. It's like, oh, well, let me think about this. Maybe I should stop what I'm doing. Maybe I should look at the possibility of change, because the path I'm on may be a path that I will not be happy with. So in this case, Party A is, of course, the MMTLP long shareholders. Party B are the brokers and FINRA, the short hedge funds. That's Party B, right? So we need to communicate to Party B that keep going down the same path that you're on right now, and that will result in a greater loss than the change that you don't want to see, right? So a greater loss. So what path has Party B been going on that's causing the problem, right? Again, Party A wants change. Party B has been going down the path of, hey, look, suddenly we found out that, we sold more shares than exist. Let's hide this as much as possible. We saw that the short hedge funds can never deliver these shares. It's impossible. The price of these shares could go to infinity. The short hedge funds could go bankrupt. If the short hedge funds go bankrupt, there are big clients. Do we want them to go bankrupt? No, maybe not. Let's see if we can help them. But no, let's change the situation, right? We're saying that, hey, look, you guys did a U3 halt. The U3 halt was enacted by FINRA. We know this. So it's simple. So you want to keep things quiet. You want to keep, you've now got a liability on the books. True, you put the liability at zero value. So, maybe it's not a liability. Maybe it's a liability you can sweep under the rug. You're trying not to pay out the Nextbridge Hydrocarbons shares because they are private company shares. It's hard to get them. It's nearly impossible to get them. And you might want to keep this placeholder CUSIP symbol that you came up with. You might want to keep it there forever. Say, hey, you got the placeholder CUSIP symbol. You may not have the Nextbridge Hydrocarbon symbol, but we'll get it to you. You'll get it, right? That's what Party B has been saying. That's what Party B has been saying. And they're basically saying, hey, no change. Let's take a long time. Let's take our time. We'll get you the shares. They exist. Who knows, But Party A is saying, look, you keep going down this path. You could be suffering a greater loss than if you don't. Why? Why is that? Why is this the case? Well, because Party A, MMTLP long shareholders, we're going to keep talking about the U3 halt by FINRA. And it's a really fascinating conversation that we'll have with anybody, because we'll be talking about naked shorting. We'll be talking about naked shorting more shares that have actually been issued by the company. This is not the company defrauding shareholders. This is naked shorts diluting shares by selling more shares into the open market than actually exist. They sold so much shares that it would be impossible for the shorts to cover. And not only that, the brokers know this. The brokers know that they cannot deliver Nextbridge Hydrocarbon shares, which are private company shares. They have effectively shorted a private company. Not only that, this smacks of fraud, corruption, and collusion. And is this an isolated case, or is this a systemic problem? Is this an isolated case, or is this a systemic problem? Okay. Are there other public companies out there that have been shorted for more shares than exist? And if so, well, that could be a major problem, because, the U.S. stock market, it's a $30 trillion stock market. This possibly, it's kind of it's like a casino, right? If you know that you can't win at the casino, why would you ever go to the casino? Wouldn't you just leave the casino? If you know the casino is rigged, if you know the game is rigged at the casino, you're going to take your money out and say, game is rigged. I'm guaranteed to lose money here. Why should I go here? Why should any company IPO and risk being shorted into oblivion? Why not just stay private, right? You have a better chance staying private than IPOing. Wait, that could cause a problem, right? That could cause a problem. That's a $30 trillion stock market out there. Companies may decide, hey, look, we don't need to IPO. We'll just stay private. We can grow better. We have better access to capital. If we grow private, we can have organic growth. Not only that, Other countries out there may, there's more than just the money that the U.S. has. The U.S. stock market is a $30 trillion market, and we get money from outside the United States of America. We get tons of people from Dubai. We get tons of money from Saudi Arabia. Or, we get tons of money from Europe. We get tons of money from China. Everyone comes to the U.S. stock market because it is known as the most free and fair market in the world. Think about that. Everyone comes to the U.S. market because of the reputation it has. The reputation is one that we don't have fraud and corruption here. We don't sell shares that don't exist. But if it comes to light that there is something, screwy with the U.S. market, that puts that $30 trillion at risk. $30 trillion at risk. So the question is, MMTLP and export hydrocarbons, that's maybe, a $50 billion problem? Maybe, worst case, $300 billion problem? Yeah. You could probably solve that for $50 to $300 billion, but are you going to put at risk a $30 trillion market for this $50 billion problem? Because people are going to think, hey, look, is this an isolated case or is this systemic? And if the problem is it's systemic, well, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. Okay. Do you want to transfer 50 to $300 billion, and do you want to ensure and keep a $30 trillion market safe, right? Because, why wouldn't you want to reduce risk on a $30 trillion market if you got to spend $50 billion? That's nothing, right? Now, as time goes on, news of this information about the U3 Halt, about shorting more shares than exist, that gets out. That can't be kept quiet forever, can it? No. And in fact, word starts to leak out, news starts to leak out. It becomes an open secret, and when it becomes an open secret, then $30 trillion comes into play at being at risk. $30 trillion. That's what the situation is about. This is not a problem about, you and me and how we're being defrauded of shares by short sellers and how they've manipulated the market. This is a problem of how everybody in the U.S. stock market could be being defrauded by short sellers. And this is just an example, right? And so therefore, getting the word out about what's going on here with this one specific case matters, right? Getting the word out, talking to your congressman matters. Why does talking to your congressman matters? Your congressman is government, right? The purpose of government is, let me make it clear, the purpose of government has always been, and will always be, to maintain stability and order. That is the only purpose government ever has. Maintain stability and order means keeping things the same. However, if they know that keeping things the same will result in a massive loss and result in giant disruption, then they will allow for change. That's why you have an escape clause. That's why democracy exists. Democracy exists because prior to democracy being in existence, the method of change that would inevitably come was ultimately violent revolution. We had the French Revolution, which existed in the 1800s, right? What happened at that point? Madame Guillotine came out. Madame Defarge came out. A lot of people who were in power in France, they lost their heads, okay? Now, and this has been going on for millennia, but there was a fabulous invention that came out before, and that invention was democracy, right? The idea of democracy and the idea of a representative democracy is that if you're in power, you don't have to die if there's a violent revolution. You can enact voting. Let the people vote, and then you can, they can, you can retire, you can have someone else take over for you without having to have problems. Not only that, if people feel that the vote is fair, it doesn't matter. You could rig the vote if you want. I'm not saying the vote's rigged or anything like that. I'm just saying that, who knows. But democracy is a fabulous invention for that. Democracy keeps the peace and stability. Your congressmen know this. You're right. Your House of Representatives is the direct democracy, is intended for direct democracy. That's why they have 2-year. That's why they have 2-year periods. They get voted out every 2 years, right? And new people can be voted in, right? And that's the whole key of it. It keeps stability. Now, the whole idea is that people have their voice heard. When people have their voice heard, they don't want to bring out, they don't want to bring out the guillotine and say, hey, look, there's no hope left. We need to have violent revolution. No, that doesn't happen because we have democracy. Democracy is stability. This is why democracy is one of the greatest inventions, as far as governments are concerned, of all time. This is why most governments should head towards democracy, right? Because the people in charge know that if they ever get out of power, they won't get killed, and their families won't get killed, and there will not be a guillotine. This is a safety valve for the people in charge, actually. Okay? So just keep that in mind. But anyway, so you contacting the congressman is a great idea. Number one, great. Because that lets Congress people know that, hey, look, if word gets out about this, and word is leaking out, because Congress people are the last to know about anything, media starts to hear about it and all that, then, we could have a financial chaos here. If people start thinking that U.S. stock markets are not anything but the most fair and equitable market out there, they might want to go to other markets, right? I mean, they may want to invest in the Dubai markets where they could make even more money, right? There's more volatility there, but, if the U.S. market is just as corrupt as the Dubai market or something like that, why would you want to invest in the U.S. market? Well, maybe the European markets are more fair than the U.S. markets. Maybe people will move their money into the European markets, for all we know. This is a problem, and Congress people need to know about it. So Congress people will want to make sure this problem gets resolved. This is why it's good for you to contact your congressman. This is why it's good for you to contact the Department of Justice and all these agencies, because they need to know that word is getting out. They can't suppress this crap forever, okay? And so keep making noise. Making noise is good, because making noise means that you are letting people know about the situation. And when people know about the situation, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Freedom of information is a good thing, right? Toward that end, we see that this news article came out. The Federalist says, hey, how the Finance Regulatory Authority allegedly protecting retail investors is screwing them over. That's right. Cop on the beat is seeing a mugging take place. And he said, hey, look, we need to protect the mugger instead of the guy being mugged. And that's what FINRA is doing. FINRA said, hey, the guy being mugged is yelling and screaming, and he's drawing a crowd. Let's protect the mugger. That's what went on with U3 Halt. So, and it's obvious, right? So that's a big story, right? When this hits news media, that the cop on the beat is protecting the muggers and is not protecting, the passerbys on the street. They're protecting the muggers and the thieves. That's a big deal. So they might want to replace that cop on the beat. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, investors are sick of synthetic shares and naked shorts that are screwing them over during the GameStop and AMC fiasco. But is it happening again? Is this more than an isolated case? Is this actually systemic? Is this a problem? Right? They should want this stuff to go away. FINRA is a quasi-governmental organization, so you can't complain to the government about that because they're private in a way. They're quasi-governmental, right? And at the same time, you can't ask for Freedom of Information Act because they're private. They're not a government. They're quasi-governmental. They're like the Fed. But you can complain to Congress about that. Congress doesn't give a F about that kind of stuff. They'll enact whatever law that they need to bring them to heel. Because don't forget, they want to make sure that the financial markets are stable. They don't want to see financial markets be in disarray. And that's what could happen if word gets out about how corrupt FINRA is. Okay? That's what's at risk. So good job, everyone. Good job. Now, on to something completely different. Thank you to Russ. Thank you to Russ Race for making this web form. Let's get the share count. He's got a NextBridge hydrocarbon share count. You can fill in your name, your Twitter handle, your email address, and you can fill in how many shares you have and which shares you keep them with, and which brokerage you keep them with. There's a main brokerage company, secondary brokerage company, third brokerage company, up to 3 brokerage companies right now. It's pretty good. Not only that, he generates a report and he's got the main brokerage count, the second brokerage count, third brokerage count, and he keeps track of how many people submitted, right? Each submission is equal to a shareholder. A shareholder can have multiple brokerages. So you may have a lot of shares with multiple brokerages. In this particular report, we see that there have been 2,172 shareholders who have submitted their entries, which represent 19.7 million shares in their first brokerage, 3 million shares in the second brokerage, and about 500,000 shares in the third brokerage. What is all, so how many shares is that total? Well, I decided to just put it into a spreadsheet. So I took the overall count, put it into a spreadsheet, put the overall total number of shares into, here, as you can see. And then we have a total count of 23 million shares. That represents on average about 10,763 shares per shareholder on average. But that's for 2,172 shareholders, right? That's a very small number of shareholders. And as a result, it can be subject to a lot of uncertainty, right? Because depending on, as we get more shareholders in, we get a more accurate figures and more accurate numbers. There are about 64,000 shareholders out there. If we were to extrapolate just from this information alone with 2,000 shareholders, extrapolate out to 64,000 shareholders, that implies with this current count that there's something like 688 million shares out in the wild as a result of these numbers. Now, when we factor in Greg McCabe, William Stewart, David, and John Berta, and we add in their shares, that brings the total estimated number of shares out in the wild to 740 million shares. Well, we only know that 165 million shares have been issued, so it looks like there's 574 million extra shares out there. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Russ, for putting this together, because without you, it would have been very difficult to find this information, okay? Anyway, now a lot of you who know statistics will say, well, what about outliers? You got some people in here who might be posting well over 1 million shares. Won't that mess up the average? Won't that mess up your stats? And then, who knows? Your share count could be totally wrong. Extrapolating this might not make sense. And to that I say, well, the outliers, we can account for the outliers. Let's say we keep track. Let's say we keep account of the outliers, and we keep track of the total number of shares that those outliers represent, right? So I've asked Russ to do this. I don't believe he's done this yet, but hopefully he will. In either case, it's just a proposal. So the idea is that we could keep track of the number of outliers. In this case, let's say that we kept track and there are 2 outliers, right? That would bring the total count for shareholders down by 2, right? 2,172 minus 2 is 2,170. And if we keep track of the total number of shares that those outliers represent, let's just say each of those shareholders had about 2.5 million shares apiece. That would be 5 million shares total in terms of their outlier shares. We could subtract that from the total number of outliers, and that would give us an average without the outliers of about 8,500 almost shares per shareholder. That's very different than previously, than what we had previously with 10,000. So as a result, we took out the 2 outliers, and now we have a better idea, right? That if we extrapolate that out to 64,000 shareholders, we come out with, 542 million shareholders, a lot less. And as a result, we could add those total shares that we subtracted back at the end, right? We could add them back at the end to reaccount for them, add them up after the shares from Berta, McCabe, Stewart, etc., right? And that puts them back in. So the numbers are still accounted for now. Now we're estimating the total number of shares is a lot less, 598 million, almost 600 million shares. That's a lot less than 740. So if there were 2 outliers in there that represented 5 million shares, that could have skewed the number up dramatically. So I'm just requesting that, we throw that in there. I don't know if that's possible or not. I hope it's easy to do. So hopefully we can do that. If not, maybe we can get the median share count, Russ. Not sure if you have access to stats easily on there, but if you can get the median share count, that would also be useful, right? Because then we could use a median instead of the mean for our average number right now. Because the mean can be affected by outliers, whereas medians are less affected by outliers, right? In either case, thank you, Russ, for actually going to the bother of making a share count and doing the web form. Outstanding job. I really appreciate it. I think you've done an amazing job there. Big shout out to Russ. If you have not, if you've not put your shares, if you've not, had your shares counted by Russ, it's I believe it's a good thing to do. I've talked to Russ. He says that it's a secure website. He's not going to keep track of any of your personal information in here. He just keeps track of your email, so that way he can contact you if need be. But he's going to delete all this data after all the share counts are done. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, Russ, good job. And he just wants to know where how many shares you have and with which broker you have them. That's all. So with that, I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody. And thanks for watching this video. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Happy New Year. It's the start of the new year. And I think we're in pretty good shape, right now. I think we're moving along. Markets have not opened yet. Big shout out to Rosa Twill. She has a federal case going in Florida. And I believe that if she's successful, that will be good for us. That will be good for all long shareholders. Awesome. I wish you success. And in either case, I think that, there can be, I think we should support all shareholders in whatever inroads they're making. And I think that just the fact that if you're making noise, that's a big deal all by itself. You may not think that you're having an effect, but you are having an effect. As long as this conversation keeps going, that is having an effect. If the conversation stops, that's a problem, right? And that's what John Berta says. He wants this conversation to keep going, for media outlets to pick it up. That's the important thing. And as long as you're doing that, you're doing so much to help yourselves and to help the entire U.S. economy and the stock market. That's all I have to say. Anyway, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. I'm not a legal counsel. This is not legal advice. And again, talk to your lawyer if you want legal advice. Talk to your accountant if you want financial advice. In either case, this is just me giving my opinion of what's going on. It is January 2nd, 2023. Happy New Year, and thank you for watching this video. Bye.